Rick Beato is a great teacher, guitar player and YouTuber. His YouTube shorts sound really good. But man, the info comes so thick and fast, unless your brain has advanced AI, it can be difficult to keep up. Today I'm going to take one of Rick Beato's shorts, and so you can understand how to build an arpeggio solo like this yourself, I'm going to strip it right back and then build it up step by step with lots of diagrams and tab. I found that my private intermediate students really love these type of arpeggios because they're a fun way to build up fretboard knowledge. And these kind of tricks will also really impress your mates. The end goal for today will be to understand how this arpeggio solo works. Step 1. Rick opens the short by saying that he'll be soloing over a G major 7th chord.
Let's say you have a G major 7th chord.
So let's have a look at G major 7th chord because it's a good place to start. The formula which makes up this chord are the intervals root, major 3rd, perfect 5th or just a 5th, and major 7th. So let's build those intervals into an arpeggio. So we'll have a root, major 3rd, 5th, and major 7th, and to round it off we'll play another root at the end. So this is our basic arpeggio. It's not a big deal, but in the video Rick starts by saying, let's say you have a G major 7th chord.
Let's say you have a G major 7th chord.
And then he plays this chord, which is actually a G major 9th chord. However, as a G major 7th chord is the foundation for a G major 9th chord, and they're both very similar. Let's not get too bogged down with that too early, as it doesn't impact the rest of the video anyway. On to step 2. Today we're going to use the Slick Rick 2-fret solo trick, and with this method, in arpeggio, we're going to have 2 notes on each string. And I'll show you why that's important soon. So we'll add the major 7th here, so now we have 2 notes per string in our arpeggio, and it's going to sound like this. And why it's important to have 2 notes per string is because Rick likes to hammer on the notes on the way up and pull off on the way back. So just with this little arpeggio we have this. And with the effect of the legato hammer-ons and pull-offs, it gives a nice little ethereal energy, which is quite cool. But you know what's really cool on the guitar? Getting up here, on the dusty end. That's step 3. So now we have this G here on the 12th fret, and we can build a major 7th arpeggio here as well. So we have... And there's also a third pattern that Beato uses on the way down, which is this one here. In this pattern, the order of the notes is a bit different, and there's not 2 notes on each string, but we still have the same intervals. So now you have these 3 major 7 arpeggio patterns. These kind of arpeggios sound great over a single G major 9th chord, like Beato is playing on the synth in the background, but in reality we're going to be playing these arpeggios over chord changes. So we need to talk a little bit about music theory. Don't click away. And I hear you asking, but what chord progressions work well with this solo trick? The answer is, as the G major 7 as well as the G major 13 arpeggios I'm going to show later today all exclusively feature notes from the G major scale, you can use a G major diatonic chord progression. A diatonic chord progression is a set of chords made up of notes from the same key. If you know what a diatonic chord progression is, that's great. You're set. If not, I won't break down here how to work out a diatonic chord progression, as it's a big topic, but here is a little cheat sheet of diatonic chords in the key of G that you can print screen. Now, I don't want to tell you how to go about your business, but you could Google backing track in the key of G major, and if they contain these chords, you'll be all set. So let's have a look at this one I found. In the first section, the chords are G, E minor, C, G, and D. If you look at the cheat sheet, you can see that all these chords appear in the key of G major, so you're good to go. Eventually the goal is for you to be able to have the ability to play tasteful arpeggios over each individual chord, but that's for another day. And also, so you can play along, I'll include a link in the video description where you can get a free PDF copy of this chart as well as the diagrams and tabs from the video. In the video, Beato mentions,
I like using upper extensions like 13ths when I'm soloing.
But what is an upper extension? An upper extension is a note added to a chord above the seventh. Upper extensions are pretty much exclusively used when talking about chords and are used to make chords sound richer. So let's have a look at that G major 9 chord that Rick plays at the start, even though in the video it's called a G major 7th. Here are the intervals of the major scale. And in the key of G, the notes that will make up the major scale will be the notes G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp. The construction of a G major 7th arpeggio will be the root, the G, the major 3rd, the B, the perfect 5th, a D, and the major 7th, the F sharp. To find the upper extension, we can just continue writing out the intervals, and they will consist of the same notes, just an octave above. The higher octave will be G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp. The note that we are adding to the G major 7th arpeggio will be the 9th, which is an A. The 5th is often excluded from jazz chord voicings as it's an interval that's less important, so here is our G major 9 chord. On the scaled diagram, you'll see this interval being referred to as a second because it's not factoring in that it's an octave above. So whether it's written as a 9th or second, it's still the same note, an A, and that A is adding colour to the chord. And now we're almost ready to put everything together. Step 6. Rick says,
I like using upper extensions like 13ths when I'm soloing.
we're going to add the 13th to the arpeggio.
That's 13.
Now this note is an E. At this point I realised that I really should have chosen a different Rick Beato short that was more straightforward, because in the short, Rick, like most other jazz musicians, refers to this interval as the 13th, even though it appears before the 7th, which contradicts my previous point. So yeah, music theory is a confusing beast. But the key takeaway for you is that you can add intervals to a major 7th arpeggio to make them sound more interesting, and that's what's important. So now by adding the 6th to our major 7th arpeggios from before, we now have this arpeggio, this arpeggio, and this arpeggio. And in the solo, Rick connects all these arpeggios up. And if you want some fairly easy ways to make your solo sound a bit more interesting, I'll check out this video next.